similar
I
but
can
different.
guarantee you that he's going to get an elastic band out at some point. If I just
Well, just to start the process going, pass them on. Take one and pass them on.
There we go. There's your little clicker.
I've
I'm
got.
going to take my bits away.
I knew you'd catch it. Don't worry
Can I
about it.
ask everyone to give Stuart a warm round of applause.
Thank you. So, good. So the topic today is personal alchemy. Who's up for doing a little bit of magic, or at least learning about it? There's one at the back there. Who's not up for doing a bit of magic? Who's fast asleep? Who gets really patronised when speakers use that approach to getting your attention? Right. So, that's me, alchemist, beacon and guide. So we thought we'd pitch in nice and easily from the start. Start with a really easy one. So what's the meaning of life? Any ideas, any thoughts? To be happy, there's a good one.
To be here.
To be here. Like it. Well, according to Douglas Adams, it's 42. Any of you done the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
You know what 42 stands for?
Go on then.
It is the ASCII code for the asterisk,
Ah,
which in searches means whatever the hell you
Boolean. A Boolean search. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. He was a bit of a genius, actually, Douglas Adams, in many ways. What I'd suggest is that the meaning of life, or perhaps the purpose of it, is to live it. Just that, simply that. And to experience your humanness, but also to experience your, I use that word, godliness. But whatever word works for you, but your genius, the bit about you that is connected with all that is in space and time and is not finite in your humanness. So that's what you're probably thinking, what the heck is he talking about there? So what I'd like to do is start off with is in pairs if you can, and it does work out reasonably well. Just turn to the person next to you and just talk for 90 seconds each who you are. And there's my example up there. I'm Stuart, I'm 59 years young, etc., etc., etc. You can read it for yourself. So you've got 90 seconds each to turn to your partner and just tell them who you are. Oops. One job to do. Probably time to swap round if you haven't already. So, how are we doing? Has everyone had a chance to share? Well, since I can't get your attention by shouting at you, and I have twice, I'm going to put my hand up. Ladies, if we could, thank you. But thank you for that. So have we all had an experience there of? Let's do. I tried. So you haven't shared about each other. Go on then. You've got 30 seconds. 30 seconds the other way round. If you haven't done it the other way round. Chaos.
Yeah, few skills. Just don't have a
I'm gonna. Right. Back in the room, guys, as it were. Hello, hello, hello. Sorry. Steve, yep, thank you. That's the first time I've done that. That's an interesting example of, I think the community, because we love to find out about people and to share ourselves. So I think it's probably something about this community, but also the human in us loves to talk about ourselves, but also to find out about other people. So that's one level of who we are, if you like. And I'm suggesting there are several other levels as we're going to go on to in a minute. So, do you think that you're a human being? Some of you have seen this before, some of you several times. Are you a human being?
As opposed to what?
As opposed to, or are you being human? So, human being? Being human?
Both.
Both? Well, there you go. So, yeah, I would suggest that you are a human being human. It's one of the things that I'd like to suggest, that we're a being in the middle of a human sandwich. We're part of all that is through time and space that's decided to come here for a little while, spend some time here to learn, to experience, to be. So, most people I forgot to do that one. So, human being human. So, the human part of us really wants to know how. Very practical. Also wants to know why. What am I here for? What's my purpose? But the being is connected with all that is, doesn't need to know any of that. It knows it already. But hey, it's here for the ride. In fact, the whole reason we incarnated is to have this journey. So, how does that play out in our lives? I like to talk about, you'll see there's a lot of trinities or triptychs in my stuff. Lots of 3 is a hugely powerful number. So feed the kids, feed the soul, feed the world. So you feed the soul when you do what you do, when you're wholly aligned with who you truly are. Who you truly are. That definition you gave to each other's earlier is just scratching the surface of who you really are. And you feed the kids with how you do what you do. So that's all about the practicalities. How do you make an income? How do you feed the kids? Feed yourself, feed the soul, feed the family. And then, why do you do what you do? That's about feeding the world, purpose, and contribution. And again, I see BeCollaboration as having 3 legs, and I've talked about those in the past, but one of the most powerful ones. So down on the practicality, the how-to stuff is all the ways that we can collaborate together in terms of commercially and to make a difference in our work. But the contribution is how we can make a difference to the world in other ways by collaborating. And we do that with the community spirit, which is all part of feeding the soul. So I see BeCollaboration very aligned with that trinity. So why do I do what I do to feed the world? So for me, it's about reconnecting people with God, by which I mean that little tiny spark of God that's in each and every one of you. That individuation of the whole that each of you are. So you're coming here to have an individual journey in your humanness, but at the same time you're completely and utterly connected with all that is through all time and space. Might be a little wacky, you can blame him for that. Erkan runs a course called Be Inspired, and while I was on Be Inspired, this voice, and I don't normally hear voices apart from occasionally the monkey chat, oh, you're not good enough, you're crap, you're rubbish. But other than that, I heard this voice saying, reclaiming God. I'm like, oh no, you're joking, I'm an atheist and la 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 la. But it's not that type of God, it's not religion. And many of the religions have it 99% right, it's just some elements of it that are less than optimal. It's about connection with Source. The other thing is about inspiring entrepreneurship around the globe. So I'm involved with an organisation called Kiva. Kiva is a microfinance organisation. I believe you're involved in that arena.
Well, I've done more work with Lending with Care.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, but yes, I'm involved with microfinance.
Yes, I think we met before
Yes.
at Mohammed Yunus's event. I don't know whether you were one of those, but
I believe.
Mohammed Yunus, Dr. Mohammed Yunus?
Yes, I'm
Absolutely.
the founder and director of the Financial Inclusion Forum.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Fantastic. So it's great to see you here. So that's about fostering enterprise. I have a real belief that enterprise empowers whole communities. So if someone can generate an income through enterprise, then they're not dependent on charity. Perhaps more importantly, they're not subsistence. They're not having to grow everything that they do for their own subsistence. So that then allows them to do other things. It allows them to educate their kids, particularly their female kids, which doesn't happen in a lot of cultures. And then they may employ people. So suddenly somebody else is out of subsistence and moving forward. And so that's one of the reasons that I do what I do. So, okay, what do I do to feed my soul? So, awakening freedom. I think you've all seen Andrew's presentations on core process and that sort of stuff. That's my core process. It's an energetic thing. It's back to that reconnecting with God, really. It's about awakening people to this more to them than they initially believe. And being a guide, so speaking, this is a great, BeCollaboration has given me a great opportunity to get up on my pins and actually say some of this stuff that I wouldn't necessarily say out in my general life. And the usual things that you'd imagine there. Immersing myself in nature, especially water. I was paddling in the North Sea right the way through the winter. Yeah, it's pretty cold. But doing some of that and starting to write, starting to create. One of the things that I do in my, who you are is not just made up of the things you described earlier, and it's not just made up of the fact that you are a piece of God. As you're going to come on to in a minute, it's made up of a lot of beliefs and assumptions about yourself. And one of my belief patterns is to control everything. And if you're controlling everything, there's no free flow, there's no creativity, there's no art. So one of the things that's starting to happen for me is to start to be creative and free-flowing. So I feed the kids by doing natural success-based coaching. Natural success is I guess you'd call it an intuitive coaching process. And help people get real clarity around what they're choosing to do, and what they want to do in the future. And connection with your wisdom, which is tapping into source, the force, all that is through time and space. On a more practical level, which is why it's in red, is talent dynamics, which identifies people's skills and talents. And I use another tool called the Enneagram, which really gets down into our shadow, into the dark side, into the things that we don't want to look at. But actually awareness of that is immensely powerful, as we're going to find out in a minute when we do a little bit of alchemy. And I also do core process, which helps you connect with who you truly are. So ultimately what I do is I help people with insights. So insights into their current reality, including their ego, their identity, their beliefs, their assumptions. And insights into what they truly love to be, do or have. And the rubber band's coming out now. You can play along if you want, since you all have one. Yay! At the back there. Because if you imagine that this is where we are in our current reality, and this is where we would love to be. There's a tension going on there in that. That's why I love a rubber band, because it really beautifully describes that tension. And if this is where we would love to be, or something we'd love to do or have, but this is where we are now, what are we going to do to bridge that gap? Yeah? And it really is connecting with the insights, with the wisdom the intuition that's outside us. A lot of things say, well, connect with yourself because you have it within you, and you do, but only by connecting with that, with the force, with God, with Source. And so that's what I mean by getting insights. So I'm going to give you a practical example of tension a bit later on, actually. So this is. Right, so I've completely lost my place. Alchemy. So we'll do a little bit of alchemy. So, you know, there are 3 steps to heaven. Wah. Something rather, I can't find the lyrics. And as life travels on and things do go wrong, just follow steps 1, 2, and 3. Step 1, you find a girl to... No, sorry, that's wrong. Yeah, step 1, you find yourself some lead. Step 2, you putrefy the lead. Cool, isn't it? Step 3, you apply the red tincture. Now there's only 3 steps to heaven. So, it's as easy as that, really is, simples. And thank you to Shiwadi Wadi who sang that infinitely better. So, spinning lead into gold. There's 3... Something I prepared earlier in good old Blue Peter fashion. So, alchemy, as a process, you may have heard of alchemy from the concept of literally that, of taking base metals, turning them into precious metals. But even then, there is every likelihood that what was going on was, it was a metaphor for the human journey. That it was taking the human baggage, their beliefs, their patterns, and all that kind of stuff, and spinning it into their metaphorical gold. Okay? So before we do that, we're going to go back to this one. So, you've got your rubber band, okay? So we've got our current reality, let's say it's that end, no, it's this end. And this is our vision, this is what we would love to be, do, or have at the other end of it. And that creates tension. So here's an example. I decided that I would love to go and do a training, the ultimate kind of training on this natural success that I was involved with, which was out in Africa. So we're talking about 10 days in Mozambique and then 10 days in Swaziland and South Africa. Absolutely magical. And as you can probably imagine with all the travel and all the rest of it, it was a few bob. And I didn't have a few bob. So now we've got some tension. I'd love to go to Soul Safari. I don't have the money. I'd love to go to Soul Safari. Oh God, I've got to talk to Helen about going on the holiday of a lifetime. And by the way, dear, you're not joining me. And various other ones, you know. Oh God, it's my nephew's 21st birthday while I'm away. And we're quite family-minded, you know. It's the first time I will have missed any family event of that kind of nature. So the tension's getting a bit now. It would have been very easy to have done that. And let go of the dream, let go of the vision. What I would suggest, and thank you to Andrew for this last time around, is that tension is purely uncomfortable. It's making you go into the unknown where you don't want to go. That is stress. That's painful. That's letting go of what you'd love. So in that space, holding that tension and connecting with my intuition, to being open, and we'll see the alchemical process in a minute, being open to receive the wisdom. 3 days later I go on Facebook, which I don't do very often, went onto one of our groups, and there's someone in the group saying, does anyone want my place at Soul Safari? I can't go. I'm doing something else now. Now, my biggest challenge with the money was not about finding the money, because they were prepared to do it on terms. It was finding the deposit. And guess what? She'd already paid the deposit and was quite happy to let me pay that back over a long time. In fact, to be fair, I'm still paying her off, which still has that little frisson of tension in it. Okay, so that's maybe that's one step. So what drew me to go on Facebook then? You could say it's coincidence. You know, you could say, well, it just luck. I don't believe so. I believe I created that. Because I held that tension and was open to what came. You know, had a loving conversation with the family, went out for a beer with my nephew. Actually, the first time I'd ever been out together, so it's, you know, probably more fun than being at the party anyway. And you know, it then got resolved. Because the truth is that tension will resolve in one way or another. It always does. At some point, that rubber band will get so bad that you either can't hold it anymore, or it'll snap. Yeah? So which way are you going to resolve it? You're going to resolve it in favour of the things that you would love, or you're going to resolve it in favour of the status quo? Because that hurts. So that's, and yeah, so you can all do that with your rubber band. So that's setting up for you, if you like, an A and B position between, you know, your current reality on the one hand and your vision on the other. But what's really going on underneath there is that there's a third effect going on, which is the psychological tension, where you are telling yourself, because you're making it up, that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I'm not allowed to be capable, I'm powerless, I don't have the capacity. Everything has to be perfect before I can start to do anything, etc., etc. You know, I'm afraid, I'm out of control. All that stuff is going on at the same time. So it's not surprising that when you think you're just doing that, you could possibly hold that tension. But if you've got all this going on as well, it's so easy to do that. Just to let it go. So, and the psychological, as I say, it's all those beliefs and assumptions and definitions that we place upon ourselves as we go through life. And most of that we learnt early in life. And Carol and I were having a conversation earlier about making stuff up. You know, how do you know when something intuitively comes to you that's the right thing to do? Well, I would suggest you're just making it up. But it's no different than what you made up about yourself that's been holding you small and contained and constrained since you were children. It's just making it up. Imagining might be a better word. Because that's what's going on here. This tension here is creative. Yeah? This one at the top there. In that space is all the wisdom and the knowledge and the imagination and the creativity that you need to resolve the issue. But rarely do people hold it long enough. You know, because that truly is the bridge between the two. It's creativity, it's imagination, it's wisdom, it's intuition, it's insight. So, I promised you a bit of alchemy. Who's up for a bit of magic? All right, cool. So, the 3 steps to heaven, I'm not going to sing again, don't worry. But they're called Negredo, Albedo and Rubedo. And, you know, there are relationships to various planets and things as well, but I won't go into all that side of it. But effectively what's going on is, do you remember we were holding the rubber band like that, had our A-B position, and then we actually have the psychological tension going on as well? What's going on there is it's that. So in alchemy, they talk about putrefaction, dissolution. There's various ways of making the fixed. So this is your lead, and this is your gold. They talk about making the fixed volatile. So What you're trying to do is to putrefy that fixedness and make it volatile. Now, in human terms, you know, what we're saying there is to take these structures, these patterns, these well-worn paths that you've created and make them more fluid. Actually have a vision and step into that vision. A vision is quite ethereal, it's quite volatile, it's part of the unknown, really. So here you have holding that tension. So dissolve the beliefs. So that's the first stage. Take your limiting beliefs and just dissolve them into your reality. So you're now back to an straight A-B choice, okay? Here I am at this point in time without enough money and believing I'm shit, okay? But I still would love to go to Africa. So then you've got this at play here. So the first thing, dissolve your beliefs into your reality, and then set up that creative tension. I would suggest that if you haven't got a tension, but there's something that you want, actually create it. You know, say I'm going to do it tomorrow or something, and wow, God, there's the tension again. So that now you've moved up towards the vision. So you've got this volatile state, this dream, this desire, this aspiration. And in that space, and this is very, very masculine in nature and energy, but in that space, we then need to move into the feminine, which is to be open and receptive and vulnerable, and just receive that wisdom. But then when you receive it, you've then got to make a choice whether or not you act upon it. So, you know, if I'd been holding that and that tension for Africa, and someone had said, you know, it popped into my head, go on Facebook, how easy would it be to go, I don't want to go on Facebook, it's rubbish. They're selling all their stuff to Putin and others. Or selling all our stuff to them, more to the point. So, you need to take the action at the end of it. And that is the bit that often catches people out. Who's aware of law of attraction or those kind of premises? Yeah. And it's alchemy. It's the same thing. The challenge is that a lot of people, it's really enticing and inviting to live in the vision. Your vision boards, get your affirmations. That can be really, ooh, you get a good buzz out of that. But are you open and listening? And if what comes up is, you know, you were to move to another country and, I don't know, live in a mud hut, you're going to act upon it. So those are, because that is how, this is applying the red tincture, as they say in alchemy. So this last little thing, you put it into the ether and whoosh, bang, you got your lead, you got your gold rather. So it refixes. So you turn the fixed volatile, and then you turn the volatile back fixed again, but it's fixed in a different way. And you can do that with your desires, you can do that with your mindset. So not really any magic, I lied, but anyway, that's... So yeah. And I've got a little acronym there for Rubedo, which is the 3 steps of it really. To heaven, so receive unconditionally, no editing. Whatever comes, making it up. Become enlightened. You know at a soul level that what you've received is in your best interest, for your highest good. And then you do what's obvious. Ru, Be, Do, if you look at the acronyms, I'm following on from Mr. Horder there. And you fix the volatile into your gold. All right? So, just thought I'd put this slide in, science first. Who can remember old pennies, halfpennies rather? A halfpenny. Science and spirit were always thought to be quite different things, particularly in the West, less so in the East, Eastern cultures, but particularly in the West. really differentiated them. You can blame Newton for that, but then he also did a lot of other amazing stuff. But science has been trying to prove everything. And we had a real naturalistic, materialistic view of the world, you know, a couple of centuries ago, a few centuries ago. And it's slowly coming back together again. If you look at quantum physicists, you know, a lot of them really believe that there is a non-local mind, that the mind is not contained within our brain, that it's actually a universal mind that we tap in and out of at will. I watched a fantastic show. It was an audience with, it's usually like Dame Edna or someone like that, and it was Brian Cox, and in it he said to the, I'm not describing it particularly well, it's about fractals or something anyway, but to the best of their scientific knowledge at the moment, no two particles, waves, whatever you want to call it, things, I'm very technical and scientific, can be on the same level of vibration. So if you imagine a staircase, they can't be in the same state, they can be in the same vibration, they can't be in the same state. So here's one on this step, and here's one on this step, and here's one on this step. Now, but we know we can change the state of that one, let's say by heating it up. So it's going to change its state. So let's imagine that it just goes up one step. But the one on that step can't stay there because they can't be in the same step. So where's that going to go? Somewhere else, and somewhere else, and somewhere else. So at a subatomic level, everything is connected. Has to know what the other things are doing in order not to be in the same state as it. So now, as I say, we're getting physicists and nuclear scientists talking about oneness, talking about the one mind. A fantastic book that I was going to recommend in a minute. The Chinese may not be their words for it, but effectively they refer to science as external alchemy and to spirit as internal alchemy. So they were aware of these things and didn't go off on quite the same tangents that we did in the West. So what I'd like to suggest to you, this is just an analogy. How are we for time, Jill? Yeah? 20 minutes, yeah? Fantastic. So just imagine, this is a variation on a thing called Plato's Cave. Anyone heard of Plato's Cave? Yes. Yeah. In that example, there were people who were prisoners who were chained up, looking at a wall, and people were playing shadows and, you know, like, almost like shadow puppets or whatever behind them. So their whole reality became the shadows that were being cast onto this wall that they were looking at. So over time, they came to believe, in his analogy, that they were their shadow. They were their dark side, if you like. So yeah, so just imagine that. Then this is a variation on this theme. That all you can see is your thoughts and feelings. Because sorry, people, feelings are actually just part of your ego, I'm afraid. Your beliefs and assumptions about yourself and about others and about the world. You know, I'm not good enough. Other people get it, I don't. The world's scary. Yeah? All those things. And each and every one of them, us, have those. And I use the tool, the Enneagram, as I say, to help people recognise what's going on in the cave when they look at their shadow. But actually, this is the variation. How would it be if you turn around and said, that's what's making those shadows. Ooh, that's nice and warm and beguiling and light and bright. And that, if you like, that's all your skills and your talents. In your humanness this time round, you have these skills, you have these talents. And connecting with those and using those in your day-to-day life is empowering, is helpful. But it's just as beguiling, I would suggest, as when you were facing the other way around and all you saw was your shadow on the wall. Because the truth is, well, let's go into this first. Polarity, one of the fundamental laws of the universe. We are everything is ultimately vibration. Andrew will tell you all about resonance and vibration another time if you want, I'm sure. But we are just vibrating, well, I'm not going to call it atoms, because if you get to the subatomic level, it's just waves and particles going on. But we are vibrating perhaps more obviously than that chair is, or that beautiful bridge out there. But each and every one of those things is vibrating. Its atoms are moving constantly, or the waves are. But there's this law of polarity which says that hot and cold are purely either end of one vibration, of one spectrum of temperature. Good and bad are just either ends of the spectrum of goodness, badness. Peace and war, it's starting to get a bit uncomfortable now. They're just either end of the same thing. They're not different vibrations, they are just the other end of that spectrum. So what I want to do is a little exercise, if you can, back to your partners, and please come back to me when I do it because I'm conscious of the time. But just ask your partner, anyone prepared to be a guinea pig to demonstrate this? Do I have to pick on somebody? Phyllis, thank you very much. Well, you can do it from your chair if you like, but yeah, it's so tell me something that you're for.
For people to make social impact.
Social impact. So in that context, what are you against?
People not engaging with it.
People not engaging with it. Okay, fantastic, thank you. So what I'd love you to do, brilliant, thank you very much, that's a great example. I'd love you to do that in pairs again. So ask each other those questions. What are you for, and what are you against? Go.
What am I against? No, I'm against injustice. You're against
And if you haven't already, please swap round now if you haven't already. Have we swapped over? Okay, you're swacking, because I'm going to have to come amongst you, as it were. You're healed. So, what? Has everyone shared at least once each way? Yes, yes. Because you guys will talk for Britain if I let you. So, right. Have you shared each way? Right. Thank you. Right. Hold those thoughts. Sorry, Phyllis. You complete? Yeah, you complete. Thank you. Right. So, hang on to those thoughts. Who's prepared to? Simon. You two are going in the naughty corner soon. You really are. Well, exactly. It's, yeah. So, anyone prepared to share what they said? Erkan, thank you. Yeah, go on.
I put my hand down. Did you?
Yeah. You can go next.
I'm against injustice.
Yeah.
I'm for justice.
Yeah.
And I'm against injustice.
Okay. Beju, you wanted to say something?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. All right, Colin.
I said I was for transparency.
Yeah.
Against, the first word that came out was deceit.
Okay, fantastic. If you... So, yeah, justice and justice. would it be fair to say that if you looked at those and you actually connected with those at the deepest level, they're actually just two ends of the spectrum of whatever that justice as a spectrum. And if that's not landing for you, that's fine, you know. But and that's the law of polarity. Yeah.
We were just considering whether the way that that question is framed creates that polarity.
Yeah.
We kind of find ourselves going to, okay, so this is what I'm for, what's the opposite of that?
Yeah. Okay.
For what I'm against.
Yeah. But if you make a stand for, you know, for justice, do you fight injustice? Do you find yourself doing that?
Sometimes.
Right. Is energetically, is fighting injustice going to create what you love?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
A bit more doubtful, but I don't spend a lot of time in injustice.
No, okay. But
That's like when you do like your protests. So you do a protest thing, so will the protest lead to the thing? That's your...
well, it's, I mean, you can talk about things like negative visions and stuff like that, which I'm more than happy to share with you. But I'd suggest that we spend most of our humanness on one of those spectrums. You know, even our beliefs are on those spectrums. We're good, we're bad, you know. What we're not doing is we're not taking ourselves up to a higher level of vibration, which is... So what I wanted to... So back to the cave, okay? So we're in the cave. We've looked at the shadow, we've looked at the fire. But the reality is that there's these two orientations going on. We're back to the rubber band again, guys. Sorry, it has to keep coming out, but we are back to the rubber band. So the reality is that you are neither the shadow or the fire. In your human form, you're both. Okay? You've got a dark side, you've got a light side. It's just back to the polarity we were looking at. But in your being, in your essence, in that little piece of God that is you, in your genius, I love that word Erkan uses, you're neither the shadow nor the fire. What you truly are is the light outside the cave. You're not even in the cave, in your genius. And each and every one of us has connection with that light outside the cave. It's just that we forget to walk outside the cave. We may even feel that, like Plato's prisoners, that we can't, that, you know, there are people constraining us. And that's a belief. But the reality is that each and every one of us can tap into that light outside the cave at will. And that's what I'm talking about here with the, you know, this part of the alchemy. Or the visions, you know, they're holding the vision and getting the bridge between the where we are now and where we'd love to be. So, what frequency do you wish to vibrate at? If good, bad is there, but something else is there, I'm just trying to use a higher and lower analogy there, which is not even necessarily a true analogy. 20 quid in the snake bite fund. And that's not to buy snake bite drinks, by the way. I stood that close to a black mamba when I was out in Africa, that she'd actually had the most deadliest snake in the world. Yeah, they do donations to the snake bite fund as the fine when phones go off or people come in late or anything else. Because basically most Africans, if they get bitten, they're dead. Because the antivenom's 50 quid or whatever it is, and they haven't got 50 quid, and they probably need 6 ampules anyway or whatever. So fascinating. Anyway, sorry, yes, back to what vibration do you want to, what frequency do you want to vibrate at? Do you want to vibrate at the frequency of good, bad or whatever? Or do you want to vibrate at the frequency of genius, whatever that might be for you?
I just wanted to vibrate at the level of genius.
Excellent. It's the right answer. Well, there's no right or wrong. It's a good answer. So, doesn't lie. So who are you being? It's me trying to get my logo in there. I boil my pants at presentations. You're the only one who's any good at this kind of stuff. So I don't know what that says. It says something about being in your genius, being in your flow, living your true nature and purpose, what you came here for. Connected with all that is through all time and space. And I just wanted to do a little reading. This is from a book which I would recommend that, if anyone wanted it. It's called The One Mind. And The One Mind by Larry Dossey, or Dossey, whatever his name is. This is about the mind not being, it's non-local. In other words, it doesn't reside in your brain. You're just sharing a piece of a single one mind. And he goes on some fantastic stuff, you know, twins, you know, premonitions, whatever. Lots and lots of stuff. Telesomatic, which I think is telepathic incidents, etc., etc. So, and he's a scientist, and he's talked to a lot of other scientists to try and make this, prove it. But what I want to say, so why is the one mind vital? If all individual minds are united via the one mind, for which there is an impressive evidence, it follows that at some level we are intimately connected with one another and with all sentient life. This realization makes possible a recalibration of the self-orientated golden rule to change it from do unto others as you would have done unto you to be kind to others because in some sense they are you. The task of the great wisdom traditions throughout history has been to transform this awareness from an intellectual concept into a felt certainty that is so real that it makes a difference in how we conduct our lives. But in the West, we haven't really, we're just awakening to these possibilities. So, I'm going to read this other section. So, isolated individual acts will never be enough. We must act collectively in concert, bypassing the inexorable sorrow we may experience in private actions. In other words, believing that our individual actions cannot make a difference is actually very depressing and you know. But enter the one mind. Its power is revealed when we realise that our combined action within it is not merely additive but exponential. In the one mind, 1 + 1 no longer makes 2, but many. This realisation diminishes the slow motion, relentless sorrow of individual actions. This understanding led Margaret Mead to observe, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So, by connection with that, we become collaborative. Solutions to problems surface that we did not anticipate. They're coming from here, they're coming from this openness. As a species, holding that intention of what we would love and allowing these serendipitous things to happen. We become more imaginative, inventive, inspired, productive, creative, resourceful, and innovative. In the one mind, our pooled neurons outperform our individual brains. So that's just what I wanted to share with that interesting book, and fits in beautifully with the whole premise of BeCollaboration, really. That's why many of us are in the room. Any questions? For about 5 minutes, I think, yeah.
I've got a question.
Okay.
The metaphor you used with elastic band, you
Yeah.
kind of said, but you're here and you want to be, somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
And there's that tension. You said when it does that, that's stress.
Hmm.
So, okay, we've all got our own experience of stress, but how would you describe this, a good, healthy tension, as opposed to that? How would you maybe articulate that?
Well, I mean, in my definition, is that the not having of something by default creates tension. I'm using that word intentionally, okay? So now we have that tension. It's going to resolve one way or the other. So it's either going to resolve in favour of what you'd love, or it's going to resolve in favour of the status quo, or somewhere in between, yeah? So for me, I'm suggesting that stress is not listening to the often very quiet little voice that says, Stewie, you want to go to Africa? And hearing you're not good enough, you haven't got any bloody money, you couldn't possibly earn it anyway, and the kids will hate you and your wife will divorce you, and you know. So, does that answer the question or not?
Between the intention of having it, but that, isn't that the
So-
psychological part?
Well, it is, but what I'm saying is if you let go of it, if something is true, then it's true. So, I mean, many of you helped me out with my accreditation. Now, on that accreditation, I decided, because my ego had stopped me doing it for 99% of the time, in 9 days, I found 24 separate people to do, 8 to do 4-hour sessions with me, 14 to do 1 hour, 90-minute sessions with me, and write it all up, and design and deliver a 1-day workshop in 9 days. Now, logic says that's impossible. I did actually check there were enough hours in the day with a bit of sleeping, but it's back to this again. What I could have done is, my coach actually reminded me. She said, "Stuart, was it true for you to do accreditation?" "Yes, Kim." "Okay. So when did it become untrue?" Shit. Okay. So I've been doing this. I've been. "Ooh, that's stressful. I won't do that."
So, but what I'm getting at is, what does that look like? Is that giving up? Is that
It's giving up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I've obviously not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
So
forgive
you
me.
have that commitment to something, or that
Yeah.
vision, or that intention,
Yeah.
and then you sell out on it, and then that's that.
Or you compromise it, or whatever. Yeah. Sorry. Sabotage it. That's usually the big one. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd sort of suggest there's quite a bit of stress in that tension.
It's uncomfortable. Oh my goodness, is it uncomfortable? Yeah.
And then, because there's some kind of a little bit of relief in that letting go at the end. If you say there's something that you have to do, and you say, no, I've got to do it, it's going to cause stress, it's going to cause family issues and that, and you hold it, that is quite stressful.
Yes.
When you achieve it, stress goes. But often, if you let go of it, there is a bit of relief.
There will be, but is that back to the polarity or the vibration? Is that egoic relief or is that genius relief? I'd suggest it's unfortunately it's your ego. It's whatever.
Can I just,
Yeah.
it seems to me it's more to do, it's pain, that's what you feel.
Mm. When you let go,
And that actually lasts, it doesn't go away.
Yes, exactly.
That pain until you resolve that tension.
That's beautifully described. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably a better answer to work than the one I gave. Yeah, I mean that pain lives with you, whereas the discomfort of holding the tension. Do you know what I mean? Finding creative ways to make the money is, I enjoyed that. So it was uncomfortable, but actually being creative was. Yeah.
The assumption you're making is that the only place you want to be is the end of that tension. It's not the case. It's in like once you let it go or surrender, then it's relief. There's plenty of projects I'm working on that I want to achieve, and there is no pain there. There is no, oh my God, like this. There's pain because you didn't do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
It doesn't mean that's at the end of that part.
No, it's not. And that analogy could apply just for going for a coffee. I went out for a coffee and a bagel, and I came out with just a coffee. Hang on, where's the bagel? It's not holding the full. We didn't do the focus creates reality thing, but
Intention. It's
intention.
rather than tension.
Yeah.
It's holding the intention.
Yeah. So it's holding it in tension. Yeah. I'm using natural success language. I'm using the rubber bands to articulate it, but it's everything is fluid, and if I'd been open to this going to Africa, and what had absolutely landed true for me was to go in 2018 rather than 2017, then that's still an answer. But to me, the chances of that being true as opposed to an egoic cop-out are pretty low.
That sort of picks up on Jeremy's point. If it's not true for you,
Yeah,
and you release,
yeah.
there's short-term pain, but then
Well,
it's a relief.
yeah,
If it's true for you,
yeah, yeah.
that pain
And the premise I'm suggesting is that you have the awareness of both ends of that. And not everyone does, and candidly that's what I do with my clients. I help them gain that awareness. I help them gain their awareness of their humanness, the current reality, which is I don't have, you know, this beautiful house I'd love or whatever. I mean, it has to be true. It can't be, you know, if you're having the beautiful house in order to feel good enough, then it's a false vision. It's an egoic vision. But let's just take that as an example. You know, I'd love to have this beautiful house or this relationship or whatever it is. And it's you say it's holding that the intention of getting there. But if your current reality is, you know, I'm single, you know, the clock's ticking, la 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 la, then there's some creative tension going on, because you can then connect with the wisdom and decide what to do. It might be, I'll go on this dating app, or go on that blind date my friend suggested, or whatever it is. But then you also got this bit going on here that says, well, you're unlovable anyway, so, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, so the alchemy is to dissolve that into that, and then hold that until the wisdom comes, and then act upon it. That's it. Thank you.